Guys, welcome back to the channel. Amped Up Friday, July 25 of the year 2025. 24 hours removed from word breaking that at the age of 71, Hulk Hogan Tribute has passed away. I don't really have a format for today's Amped Up. No format for today's show at all. I guess we're really just going to be talking about the fallout 24 hours later of such a monumental passing. Maybe we'll talk some NXT AEW numbers that I was able to come across for this week's shows. I do have those numbers. Maybe we'll talk CM Punk, talking the new show Unreal. A lot of talents speaking up about how they feel uncomfortable with this new show. This is not why they train so hard. This is not the business they want to be in. They want to be performing their craft, not exposing their craft. CM Punk is now speaking out. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Smackdown, by the time you guys see this, I know it's getting out late to you guys. So maybe I will have to keep this amped up short anyway. Probably best there is no format, as I said. But a lot of you guys, most of you guys might catch this after SmackDown because it's getting out so late. But if you are catching this before SmackDown, maybe I'm able to get this out an hour or two beforehand. We'll go over what I do know is planned for tonight's SmackDown, including one thing that is really cool, or it's good to see that they're doing this involving Hulk Hogan. So we'll talk about that. And that's probably going to be it. Like I said, no real format. I'm a BC, like a lot of you guys, most of you guys, we're still trying to comprehend the news that we got yesterday. We're still trying to digest it. And I still can't fathom it. As I said in yesterday's, and it's been a while, 24 hours, 3 uploads went up yesterday within the time frame of maybe 6 hours. Literally, the AEW Dynamite review was about to go live. It just needed the thumbnail, a couple tweaks, and it was going live on the channel when I got word about Hulk Hogan, so I immediately put that on a halt. That upload went straight to an unlisted pause, and then I went straight to a recording the Hulk Hogan upload. And so that went up a few hours later. I still wanted to give you guys the AEW Dynamite. For anybody that just needed a moment just to get away from the Hogan news and clear their head, I put up the AEW Dynamite a couple hours later. And then late last night, I was able to put up a nice tribute to Hulk Hogan as well. Just the whole world reacting, from the sporting world to Full Throttle entertainment world to the political world. Everybody. It was wild when I was putting that tribute together. And it was just like, wow, man, how big this story was, how big this story is. On one hand, you're not necessarily shocked because you know how monumental Hulk Hogan is, forever will be to this industry. But even though sometimes you know something is going to happen, you're still like, whoa, when it happens. This is one of those moments. You know how monumental the story's going to be. But when you see the coverage that it's getting, it's like, wow, this is a massive deal. CNN, Fox, NBC, everybody, their main news shows were dedicating 10, 15, 20 minutes to this story. Now, if you're anything to do with pro wrestling, even if you're just a fan of pro wrestling for years, you know, especially if you've been a fan for decades, it doesn't matter how big the story is. Pro wrestling's going to get a minute or two tops, and then we're going to move on to the bigger stuff. So it was wild to see these stations really just sitting on the story and bringing in guests from WWE and past legends to talk about it. It's wild. And it makes you just, yeah, it's just so hard to fathom it. I'm not shocked by the coverage, but I'm taken back by the coverage. And it's just as if you didn't already know. You're just reminded to an amplified degree how massive Hulk Hogan was to professional wrestling. I mean, do you guys even realize how important Hulk Hogan was, is, and forever will be? Do you guys realize that right under Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan was the most important man in professional wrestling? Because without Hulk Hogan, you don't get the pro wrestling that we even have today, or you didn't get the Attitude Era. You have no ruthless aggression. You don't have Steve Austin. You don't have Stone Cold. You don't have the John Cenas. You don't have the Roman Reigns. Because Vince McMahon has told you time and time again, he would have been out of business. He was taking gambles that he just couldn't cash them in if they failed. And Hulk Hogan was what he was banking on. He was the chip at the casino, the last one, and he was putting it on the table. He was betting the house, so to speak. And he was betting it on Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan didn't just hit a home run for him. He hit grand slams. Without Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon's creation, vision, all of it, World Wrestling Federation never gets launched. Not the way Vince would have hoped it would have. And ended up coming to fruition. But without Hulk Hogan, that's just a pipe dream. You don't realize how much, you just think he was all Vince's star. Hulk should be grateful he got that spot. Hulk Hogan was right. The two most instrumental human beings for the reason that pro wrestling launched into what it became and even what it is today. Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Regardless of how you feel about them personally, maybe you like them, maybe you can't stand them. You have many reasons why either which. I hear you. That's your prerogative. Much respect. I'm just speaking in terms of pro wrestling. That's it. Vince McMahon did not do this on his own. Absolutely not. Hulk Hogan, that's why Vince McMahon had to finally break his silence, and he actually paid tribute to Hulk Hogan. You don't see that for just anybody or anybody. Hulk Hogan drew Vince McMahon out to pay that tribute. I know there's just so many younger fans, or just people just forget in time, because time moves on no matter what. I hear you. But you have to remember, and if you're younger, you have to know how big Hulk was. He wasn't just this big superstar. He's like a Stone Cold. He's like a Roman. No, without Hulk Hogan, you don't have any of this. I don't know how many times Vince has to tell you he almost went out of business several times, but thankfully Hulk Hogan bailed him out. Not financially, but by being Hulk Hogan and selling the houses, putting WrestleMania and the Federation on his back. Time after time after time. And even WCW. They tried everything. They had a good product, man. It was just WWF was too big. But you go back to those late 80s or early 90s, the Starcades and the Super Brawls, Big Van Vader and Cactus Jack and Stinger, Surfer Sting, Nature Boy Ric Flair. They had such a good product. They just couldn't get over that hump. And WCW was in despair. There's a lot of people at WCW that just didn't want it to be in existence anyway. So they're like, dude, if it fails, let's just get rid of it. They tried one last ditch effort to try to get WCW to where they wanted it to be. Hulk Hogan. And boy, did that work. What happened? WCW was off to the races. And for 80 some odd weeks, WCW somehow, and I say somehow with an asterisk because we know his name's Hulk Hogan, they ended up beating WWE. 80 some odd weeks. Over a year. Nobody would have thought anybody could take out WWF. That's the power of Hulk Hogan. They made that move. And then when he switched over to the NWO and reinvented himself, the greats will always reinvent themselves. Then he goes to the NWO as a bad guy, and it becomes the coolest thing that pro wrestling has ever seen. It launches WCW into the stratosphere. You know, The Rock just paid tribute to Hulkamania. And I just saw this right before recording, so it's pretty fitting to talk this for a couple of different reasons. It was a long tribute. I mean, The Rock put a lot into this. A lot of time went into it, several paragraphs. At the attached to this post was a video of a little TV playing the WrestleMania 18 matchup with Rock versus Hulk Hogan, one of the best matches in wrestling history. Just for the feeling of it. You didn't need flips and dives and 85 million kickouts. The feeling was there. At the right moment, the right people, right situation. It was magic. Toronto, Skydome. WrestleMania 18. I don't even think that was the main event, was it? Huge botch by BC if I'm wrong, and that was the main event. I don't know why, but I recall there was a different main event. That was not it, and I don't think WWE thought it would be that big. But they failed to remember just how big Hulk Hogan is worldwide, especially in Canada. WrestleMania 6, when Warrior beat Hogan and hoisted up those titles, the IC and the World. But a lot of individuals were watching Hulk Hogan ride off in the sunset and leave the ring instead of watching Warrior celebrate in the ring. That's how much they love Hulk Hogan. So Rock went into this match as the babyface. Hogan goes in as the heel, and by the end of it, they were booing Rock out of the building, and Hogan was a newfound hero to the lengths we've never seen before. That's real talk. Rock knows this, and he paid tribute to that matchup in his post. And he uses words like goosebumps, and it was electric when he kicked out of the rock bottom. Guys, just recounting that and watching it again, literally, that's what you get. I got it again when I was watching it. It was a video of the actual TV playing it. And you see Hogan kick out of the rock bottom, and still to this day, it's legit goosebumps. To watch the crowd in unison like they have a conductor to an orchestra, and the whole crowd just rises up and makes a noise I've never heard before in pro wrestling. And I've heard the glass shatter and here comes Stone Cold. I've heard the Warrior thunder his way to the ring. And there's been superstars like when the gong hits and here comes The Undertaker, Randy Savage. Really great, epic pops. Huge reactions. But there's nothing like Hulk Hogan's. And I'm not just talking about when he comes to the ring, but middle of the match, end of the match, when he just kicks out and starts hulking up. The thunderous sound that was made, you can never forget that. But when it hits new octanes, when it hits new decimal points like it did at WrestleMania 18 when he kicked out of that rock bottom, even The Rock took two. You go back and watch. Rock had to take a couple steps back. Rock was in that ring. It had many, many, many matches by that point, even though I believe he was only about 29 years old when he was in the ring facing Hogan. But he was in the business. He knew enough. He pretty much saw it all, heard it all, until that ovation and that sound in that stadium, in that Skydome. And he had to take a couple steps back. Hogan was fully amplified, with an entire country on his back, an entire company on his back, an entire world on his back. It's goosebumps, man. You don't get that in professional wrestling. You just don't get it in professional wrestling from anybody. Consistently. And that's the thing. Hogan would do this consistently. The WrestleMania 18 matchup with Rock and kicking out of the rock bottom and hearing that sound, that was just a whole nother ceiling that got shattered. But Hogan would do this consistently. That's what makes him the top of the top, the best of the best, is because consistently, for as long as he did it, and then when it started to fade a little bit, he would reinvent himself and become the coolest thing again. Nobody can do that consistently like Hulk Hogan did. That's why this is such a big story. That's why everybody is finding it a little bit harder to digest it. Is because you remember how monumental this dude was to the business. And without him, this version of this business does not exist. Without Hulk Hogan, I can assure you, this channel, BC, you guys, most of you wouldn't even be fans right now. And a lot of the wrestlers that are wrestling today would not even be doing their craft. That's truth. They'll tell you that. Listen to these wrestlers speak. A lot of them are saying the same thing. It's Hulk Hogan is the reason I'm even in the ring. You guys have been sounding off the whole last 3 uploads A lot of you guys, Hulk Hogan's the reason that you became a fan and followed pro wrestling. I hear you. I had 3, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, and the main one was Hulk Hogan. Devastated when I heard the news about Savage, devastated when I heard the news about Warrior, and absolutely devastated that the third and final puzzle piece, Hulk Hogan, has now also passed. But it's those memories, man. You'll always remember it and you'll always go back to it because there's no other moment with anybody else that can compare to it. Nothing. And in that long tribute too from The Rock, he also mentioned a cool story how Hulk Hogan was taking on Paul Orndorff on it was a main event back in maybe 84. And he throws his headband into the crowd. I think he just meant to throw it out of the ring, went to the crowd. Rock ends up getting it. This is young Rock. And he grabs the headband. He caught it. And he gave it back to Hogan. And Hogan thanked him because Hogan's like, this one is special. There's not another one like it. Thank you for actually giving that back to me. I'll make it up to you and I'll give you a custom Hulkamania headband next time I see you. So a month rolls by. Madison Square Garden. Hulk walks up to Rock, hands him a custom Hulkamania headband. Says, thanks, kid. Pretty cool. Like Hulk Hogan just didn't forget. You know, you hear a lot of stories like that. And Ric Flair talking about how Hulk Hogan lent him money so that his son could go to rehab and finish rehab. Charlotte Flair talking about how when her father was in the hospital and one of the first and one of the only people to consistently visit him. And again, one of the first two. Hulk Hogan. And you know what's wild too? Chelsea Green, I caught this right before we started recording. She actually had to, or not had to, she felt like she had to, or felt like she needed to maybe, issue an apology to fans that thought that her earlier comments about Hogan, which I did not hear or even read about, but I guess she was paying tribute to Hogan like the whole wrestling world right now. But Green, I guess a lot of fans felt she was being dismissive of the comments that Hogan has made in the past. That got him in hot water, and justifiably so, that he had to apologize for. He got kicked out of the Hall of Fame. He had to apologize several times, show remorse. Some individuals don't think he showed enough, but everybody's line is different. But yeah, it landed him in hot water. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that I'm pretty sure I could speak for most of us in the wrestling world. When we talk about Hulk Hogan right now, right after his passing, we're just talking about Hulk Hogan in the wrestling realm right now. All of that other stuff, that would be a much longer conversation. Ones that you can absolutely say need to be had as well. But right now, we're all trying to digest it and comprehend it. So if there are fans out there that are like, I understand what he meant professionally and why everybody is saddened by this and why it's so big, but BC, I just can't get the other stuff, the personal stuff out of my dome piece. So it's not hitting me like others. That's cool. Honestly, your prerogative, much respect. I don't think anybody's trying to make you feel a certain way, but I also don't think that those individuals should be getting so uptight if Chelsea Green is trying to honor Hulk Hogan or pay a tribute or say nice things. So the fact that Chelsea Green is, a lot of people are like, you can't be dismissive of what he said. Chelsea's like, I'm not. That's not at all what I was trying to be. So she had to issue an apology or felt like she did. And that's so, Chelsea of all people, I don't want to go on a whole side rant on that, but Chelsea Green of all people having to apologize or feeling like she should. I just, like that, come on. Is there really people that think Chelsea Green condones what Hulk Hogan said in the past or even did? And if that's the case, really? Do you know anything about Chelsea? She is an absolute sweetheart, man. She is such a good kid. She's trying to honor Hulk Hogan. The wrestling aspect of it right now is that's what we're trying to digest. And we're doing it as a community. Nobody's being dismissive. Trust me. It was a hot topic then. It still is, clearly. We get it. And again, feel any way you want. But to come down on Chelsea Green and some wrestlers that are just trying to focus right now in the immediate aftermath, right? The fallout just 24 hours later. Yes. Don't be shocked if a lot of the wrestling community is really trying to focus on what this dude did for pro wrestling. Just don't be shocked if that's happening. And if individuals like Chelsea Green doesn't issue an apology, don't be shocked. And she's not a bad person. And she doesn't condone what Hulk said or did in the past. Trust me. Chelsea Green apologizing. It's just... yeah, wild, man. Again, I would just ask, do you realize how important Hogan was, is, and forever will be to this industry? It was Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan that launched WWF. I've always said that. Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Without one or the other doesn't go where they went. We could do this for another hour because, again, it's just I am trying to digest all this, man, and comprehend it still 24 hours later. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like we're in left field with a hockey stick just winging this amped up. Hopefully we're winning as well, though, man, in terms of time, because this is about to hit Smackdown. So winning right now for this amped up would be getting this out to you with at least an hour before Smackdown, because I actually want to talk a little bit about it. And it'll only take a couple of minutes because I only know two things so far, what they have. Number one, SmackDown tonight will be honoring Hulk Hogan, and they're bringing in legends that we know of. They're flying in Sergeant Slaughter, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, Eric Bischoff was invited in. He couldn't make it last minute. He said he just couldn't make it, so he had to turn down the invite. But they were bringing in Eric Bischoff as well, so it remains to be seen if he does a pre-tape. We don't know if this is going to be like through the night, if they're going to have everybody like giving their testimonials, if you will, on what Hogan meant to them and to the business. Is there going to be a 10-bell salute, for instance? We don't know, but it's pretty cool that they're hugely advertising this. Like before recording, this was the main thing they're advertising on WWE and the SmackDown site is Hulk Hogan. And there's a big image of him, and tonight WWE honors Hulk Hogan. So it looks to be it's their main promotion for tonight. So that's cool. It's not just going to be a little like video package and then a couple of mentions and that's it. Because it has to be bigger than that, man. This is Hulk Hogan, and the reason that there even is a SmackDown tonight, not The Rock. I know, Rock SmackDown, but the reason there's a Rock and a TV show on Friday nights, all of it. I can't emphasize this enough. Hulk Hogan. And Vince, yes, but Hulk Hogan. So it's really cool that they're going to really honor Hulk tonight. We'll see exactly how. And the only other thing that they're advertising is LA Knight has a segment tonight, has a lot to get off his chest. Last time we saw him, I believe he was beating Seth Rollins when Rollins got injured. Maybe we saw him again, but he just feels so irrelevant because Helmsley has botched him so badly. This should be one of the top stars in the company and should have been for 2 years now. It's damn near criminal what they've done to LA Knight. So I don't know. Does he finally get launched into something of relevance? Finally, years after it should have been done. We'll see. Ironically, if you think about LA Knight's colors and a lot of his shirts, it's the yellow and red colors, right? I'm just saying, ironically, this could be a little bit of a launching pad for LA Knight. And it would be the night that they are honoring Hulk Hogan. Or it's just the same old, same old. I said it after LA Knight lost that gauntlet match on Raw. In fact, was that after the Rollins W, the gauntlet match? I forgot. Either way, when he lost that gauntlet match, I told you guys that's as close to, if not buried. And I hate the B word in pro wrestling. In pro wrestling terms, I know, in an upload like this, talking about being buried in pro wrestling, but LA Knight, that was in the middle of a gauntlet match. And then everybody just started yeeting seconds later because they paraded Jason Uso out there to try to make everybody forget about LA Knight losing right there. Hey, don't worry, you're all going to yeet right now. LA Knight could not have looked any more insignificant and irrelevant than he did on that Monday Night Raw in that gauntlet match. And I told you guys, with that type of booking, buried. There's no coming back from that. If he's going to, tonight's segment would be the only way to start that process. That's how badly they damaged LA Knight. But apparently he's got a segment. They're promoting this pretty heavy. We'll see. Or does everything get switched up for the Hogan tribute, and then LA Knight just gets a minor segment tonight. But there's a lot of fallout that we need to see. Of course, Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa, and their cage match at SummerSlam for the United States Championship. We'll see the fallout from that as well. After last week's we actually got a story last week. What a concept. And for the ladies, was it Alexa and Charlie on Raw, or is that I think it's SmackDown, right? I think it is. Because on Raw, they're doing, I don't know. Guys, I go in with no expectations. That's how bad these shows are lately. And by lately, I mean the last several years. So I go in with no expectations, and if I'm pleasantly surprised when we go over the review, I'll have nice things to say about the show. If I'm not pleasantly surprised and the show sucked, I'll rip the show apart, which unfortunately we usually do. SmackDown's review will be live on the channel either late tonight for channel members or early tomorrow morning for channel members. And then everybody by the afternoon, all subscribers. So be on the lookout for the SmackDown review, the 25th of July, 2025. Hulk Hogan Tribute, and hopefully LA Knight gets something of relevance. And then we're just a week away from SummerSlam, by the way, too. That's wild, too, with Hogan, right? I always think Hogan and SummerSlam. Everyone thinks Hogan and Rumble or Hogan and WrestleMania. I always thought SummerSlam and Hogan. It's always around my birthday anyway, and Hulk Hogan was always a focal point of SummerSlam growing up. And, SummerSlam's in a week. So to have this happen as well. And then Hogan's birthday was also right around SummerSlam. August 11th, I believe, is Hogan's birthday. He would have been 72 in just a couple weeks. But that's SmackDown. Again, most of you guys are going to catch this probably after SmackDown. So that last 5 minutes. By now, you already know what happened with Knight and what the tribute was for Hogan. Real quick, guys, a couple of things I will go over, might as well. WWE Unreal. I told you guys a lot of wrestlers are speaking up, and it's so cool to see because that's not always the case. They're always kind of afraid of if Helmsley will retaliate, or is Helmsley going to put him in the doghouse like Corey Graves, or don't speak out of turn. But a lot of individuals are just talking about how uncomfortable they are filming this new Unreal show for Netflix and exposing the business. And just the concept alone is uncomfortable. But then they're just like going over matches or things they're really trying to protect for themselves and who they're working with that night. And there's cameras that are just there. They don't tell them what they're doing, what they're trying to catch. They don't know who's mic'd up. And so like Rhea Ripley was one of the latest. She's like, yeah, it feels like I shouldn't be saying anything. But even if I do, I don't know what it should be. I still want to protect the business. I feel like some of the things that I'm going over with my opponent for the night, there shouldn't be a camera there. And it's just putting the wrestlers in such a weird place. And here's Hunter Helmsley, the guy who is supposed to be protecting it more than anybody because he's the boss. And he's the one who's trying to pull it back and expose it more than anybody. So the wrestlers are trying to protect the business full throttle. And Helmsley, the boss, is trying to expose the business full throttle. Tell me what's wrong with that. And now CM Punk is speaking out, and he's saying the same exact thing. He says this is not what he got into pro wrestling for, and it just feels just wrong to be exposing the business. And not only that, but he says he doesn't know who's mic'd up. He doesn't know what the cameras are trying to catch. So the whole experience is just weird, and it goes against everything that they were taught and why they got into the business. Protecting it is one of those key things that makes you know that you're in that brotherhood or sisterhood, that you are a pro wrestler, and that you are in this thing that you're supposed to protect. And the fans want you to a massive degree. CM Punk is telling you how awkward this is and how it just feels wrong. Rhea Ripley telling you how awkward, how it feels wrong, and so many others. How many have to tell you before you kind of come up with the concept in your own dome piece that this is just not right? Kayfabe is all but almost gone in 2025, but it can't fully be gone. The moment you totally piss away kayfabe is the moment pro wrestling's done. It's done. You always need a little bit of kayfabe. There's nothing like pro wrestling. And because it is a never-ending soap opera, if you will, you always need some sense that what you're viewing, they are believing in. Hope that makes sense, man. Without that, if they're just constantly telling you how fake this is, how scripted this is, you can't possibly give a shit going into Friday or the next Monday or the next PLE or later this summer at Clash in Paris or next year's Mania. If you're wondering why more and more individuals, more and more fans are walking away, it's not just the shows suck. It's because they're telling you to walk away. They're exposing everything. There's no reason for you to tune in next time. Helmsley can't be the star of pro wrestling anymore because he can't wrestle. So what's he going to do as the boss? He's going to expose the business. He's going to be the star of a show that exposes the business now. He'll always find a way to be the star. I'm glad CM Punk spoke out and talked about how weird this is and how it just doesn't feel right. And I hope more and more keep doing such. I got numbers for you to close out this amped up for the 25th of July. NXT brought in approximately 747K, way up from their 586,000 that was produced the week previous. And I do want to say too, what was that? There was the 4th of July one. Then the 11th, 18th, and 20th. The 4th of July got banged up. I think they bounced back on the 11th. I forgot. But there was a lot of talk of why NXT dipped last week. And you can come up with excuses. A Major League Baseball All-Star game, I think, was last week, right? And that's when they were touting the, a huge number that the All-Star game got. And it did. But nobody wants to talk about the fact that NXT just produced a bad show. Nothing that they promoted was like, I have to watch. At what point do you say that was the problem before any baseball game? This week, 747 sem-odds. You're like, BC, that's a huge jump. Was the show really that great? Was it? Because that's what, not just good, right? If you gain 150,000 views, well, I only saw a half an hour of it, and actually, I dug the half an hour that I saw. Jordan Grace, it was Mariah May, who's Blake Monroe now. She had a quick squash. After the match, Jordan Grace jumps the barricade, takes out security. During the distraction, Blake Monroe is able to hit her with a steel chair and then DDT her on a steel chair. I just thought it was well done with Jordan and Monroe. And then there was a backstage segment with, who was it? Javon Evans and Inamura. And I just felt like those two went together. It was the closest thing to Daniel Bryan Kane from back in the day. Like that just odd couple that works. And Javon Evans and Inamura. I thought that was pretty good. And the main thing, and I was able to catch this during this half an hour, and this is the reason, if you're wondering, BC, why would it be that much of a jump from 586 to 740 sem-odd? It can't just be the All-Star game. No, it's because they promoted The Undertaker. No joke. I'm not even kidding. Yeah, now you're like, oh, now it makes sense. Undertaker started hour number 2. A whole segment with Trick Williams. Whole segment talking that trash, choke slam, music is bumping, Limp Bizkit, not the old Taker theme. American Badass. But yeah, Taker was promoted, and then Taker had a full segment. So yeah, that absolutely, obviously, will put you into they were going to get back into the 6 anyway. Again, what I did see was much better than the week previous. But when you announce a legend like The Undertaker, yep, you're probably gonna patent those stats. So good for NXT. They promoted it, but they usually pop these kind of numbers when they bring back legends and some of the main roster and things like that. They're going to have to do that with their own roster. And I think it starts with stop bringing in all the LFG people from the reality show. Stop bringing in all the Evolve people. Careful how you're utilizing the TNA relationship because you don't want to get away from the identity of what NXT is. And AEW was up this week from last week. Last week, a 588, not counting Max, which we believe is 40 to 60. So you can put that up to what? 630 sem-odd, 640 sem-odd last week, if you include Max, but 588 up front. This week, over 600K sem-odd. I think it was, 607, 608, something, maybe 609. But they were able to cross 600 up front. If you put the 40 to 60 of the Max numbers, they'd be 650 to 660-ish. So about 650 to 660 for AEW in totality. NXT 740 out. How much of that was the Undertaker promotion? We'll try to break down the quarterlies on that and find out. And that's your numbers. So NXT goes up, AEW goes up. And that's funny because I told you, and AEW this week felt a little better than last week, which was the post All-In, so that sucks to say that. The post All-In should have been really good, but I felt this week's AEW was better than last week, and the half an hour that I did see of NXT was actually pretty damn watchable. So yeah, usually when I review things like that, and I tell you guys, man, usually the numbers will back up every word that I am saying. Guys, that's what I got for you. I'll try to get this out to you in a reasonable amount of time. I don't know, a little bit of time before SmackDown. Feel free, if it's about to hit their waves, to stop this now and then come back later and watch the rest. Well, then again, if you made it this far, you've already watched the whole. What am I saying? I need more coffee. What can I say? They don't have good coffee at Chick-fil-A, so I gotta go get some coffee right now, do some errands, rock out the world, whoop that ass, and then do my amplified notes for you guys, so you guys get the proper review that you become accustomed to in this community that you can only get right here on the Amplified channel. So that's where we're going to do this now, man. 44 Dive, that's a wrap. Until next time, and there will be that next time. BC in the unit, we're saying check you. Salute, and salute, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan. Thank you, dude.